Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video we're going to talk about light and shadow. And since this video was done I don't know how long ago, so I don't have the reference photo or the value study anymore. So but I can still remember the painting and a little bit information about the reference photo. The reference photo was actually taken during a trip to Banff National Park, and what I love about this reference photo was the feeling of sunlight. You could see the really strong, bright midday sun and the strong shadows in the foreground. So to start out with the light tone, I start out with wetting the paper first, and this is actually a lot. This I can remember the size too. The size of this a little bit. I'm gonna say 18 by 24. So it's not. It's a little bit bigger than the normal 12 by 16 size that I paint. I wet the paper first and start out with that. And once the paper is wet, I'm able to start putting in the different the light tones. And within the light tones, there are different temperatures. You have the yellow, the blue, and also the turquoise color of the color of the water. So this is that first layer that I put down, and because the paper is wet, and you could see the edges are pretty soft, and this is typically how I like to start out my light tone, and because I wet the paper, it actually allows me to work on it and still maintain that soft edges that it's difficult to get. And then once the paper starts to dry, then you could see the edges will get a little bit more sharper. And this is as I continue to, once the first layer, the light tone done, I'm going into the mid light tone, and this is the just going over with a stronger, a more intense color, and this is still in the light tone, and as the light mid tone dries, and this is the part where I'm going in there with a kind of a light mid-tone now. So this is the part where the paper is drying. You can see the edges are getting a little bit getting a little harder, and this is actually good because it contrasts with the lighter tone that I put down earlier. And a little bit about the light and shadow. So in order for the viewer to feel that sense of light, we need to keep the light side and the shadow side separate. So that's the key to create the feeling of sunlight. In fact, this is something that I learned when I was at Disney. I was trained under my mentor. His name is Razul Azadani, and so the idea is to know where the light source is coming from, the direction of the light source, and then basically you just create the direction, where the direction of the light, and then where the light hits something, and then it'll create the light side and the shadow side. So basically, it's kind of like this no-tan method in a sense, but it's the same principle. But I think in this case, we're talking about just having a basically two side. You have the light side and the shadow side, and just create that to keep those two sides separate. And so this actually it's very interesting because just by doing that, you're actually creating. It's a very interesting concept, and but actually it makes sense. So right now I'm working on the I would say the midtone now. So we have within the midtone there is the light midtone and the dark midtone. So the green is the light midtone, and then you have the darker green, and then the really dark green in the background. So this way, it's actually creating that the kind of the shadow. So the green is the light side, and the green is the side that's lit by the sun, and then the dark in the back is actually in the shadow. So this is the kind of tricky, and in the beginning you kind of have to, and also because of the I work on this wet on wet, the edge is actually quite soft, and that's by design because it's actually further away, so we can keep the shadow edges a little bit softer. So as I'm working on the midtone right now in the midground, and this is actually the shadow, the kind of the dark. It's kind of like the light midtone, and then this is the where the when the kind of the shadow that's created by the sunlight, and then the blue that I'm currently putting down is actually the shadow of the water now. So this is the part where I'm beginning to get into the shadow side now, and then as you can see the darker shadow, and again this is the part where it's once you have the darks in, even within the dark you can see there's the blue, and then there's the kind of a warmer now. So within the darks there is that temperature shift, and the amazing part is that because the shadow, it's actually the design can be very random, and just to make sure that keeping that a little bit more natural, because I mean the design of the shadow, it's what is the best way to put it? I would say it's very spontaneous, just like the way I would do these calligraphic feel to that, but at the same time, like having that the design creating allow that the shadow to kind of have that natural like how the shadow are being casted onto these rocks, and then also suggesting these kind of like maybe leaves or something that's from outside of the picture plane, that you don't see the object that's casting the shadow, but at the same time it's actually you don't have to match anything. You just have to in fact it's actually much more liberating, and not have to follow the specific design. So, and because I don't have the reference photo, and I'm just relying on my memory, and also I don't have the what do you call that? I don't have the value study, so it's kind of what I try to remember what I was thinking at the time when I was painting this. So the block, I mean the light side and the shadow side is pretty much established. So right now I'm just reinforcing the foreground element, and you can see the warmer of those rocks. The so initially it was kind of light. So now, because of the darker shadow, I could afford to go in there and make the color a little bit more intense, and then bring those rocks kind of closer to us. And at the same time, because it's the darker shadow in the foreground, allows me to make these rocks a lot more intense, and then without changing its color. And then within the shadow, you can see there's lots of blue and kind of that reddish brown. So within the shadow, there's quite a bit of change in the temperature. So once the light and shadow pattern established, and the feeling of that sunlight, and this is just kind of go in there and bring out the subtleties within the different the smaller shapes. So basically, you start out with the big shapes, and then once the big shape is established, then you go in there and you break up the big shape. You turn the big shape into smaller shapes. So this is the process. It's always going from more general to specific. And this is also a good way to kind of control, if you're working on a bigger painting. Instead of focus on the small things, we focus on the big shapes, the big area and then from there, once everything is locked in, it's much easier to kind of break this big shape into smaller shapes. And actually, it's gonna be a lot easier. You don't feel like you're always keeping the overall feel, look at the big picture rather than focus on small things. Again, so what I'm doing right now is just constantly reinforcing putting the color stronger, and this is the process that's going to take a long time, and I believe I sped up the whole process about 400 times. So this looks like it's really quick, but the truth is it's actually taking a lot longer. And then right now I'm softening the edge. I use an old Bristol brush just to kind of soften the edges, because when I was putting in these shadows, I was actually pretty what do you call that, I was actually pretty quick, and I rely on a lot of the brush work and the mark making. So now it's just time to go in there and soften the edge. And this process is actually taking, between this stage and the finished painting, I would say it took about, if I recall, this painting took me at least a few days. So the whole entire process, the block-in took about, I would say, maybe 1 or 2 days. But then the touching up of this painting took a lot longer. And most of the time it's just the smaller shapes, enhance certain colors, and then mostly just fine-tune the smaller shapes and enhance the colors, and so on and so forth. So again, I hope this will give you an idea of how I approach this painting, and what else. So like as usual, if you like the content in this channel, please like, subscribe, and feel free to leave me a comment, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.